everybody. I'm Quentin.
And I'm Amy, but you can call us Q&A. Welcome back to our channel.
And this is...
Safari Story Time.
You goober.
Over the summer, we went to Kenya in Africa, and this was a big trip that we had planned for a super long time. That got delayed because of COVID, and there were a lot of hoops we had to jump through to actually make it happen during the pandemic, but it was totally worth it. So with that, let's rewind a little and tell them about how we actually got to the Masai Mara.
So this is crazy. So after actually landing in the city of Nairobi, because you can't just get right to the Masai Mara from the flight that we took, we landed in Nairobi and we were on a 12-seater, I kid you not, a 12-seater airplane where, I mean, it was just so cramped. The plane was so small and we really didn't even know if we were going to be able to make it. And we were in the very first row. We could reach out and touch the pilots, which was absolutely crazy.
Luckily, the flight was only like 50 minutes to where we had to go. But it was cool because while we were up there, we actually got to see our first animal from the sky, which was pretty cool. We saw some giraffe from the sky and zebras.
And elephants.
Yeah, we did see elephants too.
And you may think, like, what kind of airport would they have in the middle of a Masai Mara reserve? There's no airport. It is a
yeah.
dirt landing strip, as in, like, nothing but dirt and a bathroom, and that's about it. So it was a little crazy just getting to land. It was like really, really rocky and bumpy getting in, and they kind of warned us about it, so we kind of braced for impact. But other than that, it was a pretty smooth landing. We were able to just wait a couple of minutes, and we got to meet our driver, who was going to be our driver for the entire week. His name was Ezekiel. He was an incredible guy.
So let's caveat this with the fact that we came from Egypt. We flew to Nairobi, and then we got on another little plane to get to the Masai Mara. And by this point, we did not sleep well at all on our overnight flight from Egypt to Kenya. And so we're going on like maybe 3 hours of sleep. We also are having some stomach issues because of food we ate from Egypt. So like we haven't eaten a lot, we're starving. And once we get to the landing strip and Ezekiel greets us, you know, I'm thinking like, okay, 15 minutes and we'll be at our safari camp. We quickly learned that that was not the case. We were in the car, well, it was our safari vehicle. I'll put a picture here. It was a 3-hour drive, and let me tell you, it's not a drive like on a paved road. You are just really driving through the Serengeti, and so you are over rocks, you are in rivers, you're going through mud, and we can show them. It was literally, like, we are like this the whole entire time. Like, you're just bumping and jumping around.
You're getting hit in the face with brush, and you're having to duck and dip and dive and do all these crazy things. And the guy would tell you, you know, duck or like lean in, stuff like that. And then he would always check to see if we were okay. But it was just so crazy, actually, like that. Everything was just like the nature was in our vehicle at sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that too, he, like, when we first got on, because we didn't know him yet, and it was only us two on our vehicle, which was also really nice, he looked back to us and he goes, you can go back home to America and tell them about your crazy driver here. And we're like, oh, trust me, we will. So anyways, while we were driving, we saw, obviously throughout our safari, we saw a lot of crazy animals, and stay tuned because we're going to talk about how we came pretty much face to face with lions and cheetahs, but we'll talk about that later in the video. But first, Ezekiel asked us what my favorite animal or our favorite animal was, and I shared with him that I just love elephants. And I just think they're so big and they're so majestic, and I just think I wanted to see them in the wild so badly, and especially like a big herd of elephants. And Ezekiel was like, man, I just had a group of people here and they wanted to see elephants, and we looked for them for 3 days and we didn't see any. And I was like, oh man. While we were driving out in the distance, Ezekiel was like, look, and we looked out and there were about 12 elephants. We were able to actually drive up very close to them. Like, I would say they were maybe 20 feet from us. When we got that close, I think I was like so sleep deprived and hungry and just like overjoyed that I was like actually here after trying to get here for 2 years. And I just started crying and I was just weeping and I was just so happy. And Ezekiel was so sweet. He was like, the elephants know that you love them, and that's why they're here. And it was just so fun. And he was like, and Ezekiel kept on saying to us, like, he just lives to see us smile because he loves seeing people experience his animals and the animals that these Maasai people love so much, and love seeing these animals bring joy to people. So the elephants were hands down my favorite part of the safari because it was just crazy to be with the matriarch who's 40 years old and then also a baby elephant who's less than a year old, and to see them all together was so cool.
And it was just such an overflow of emotion too, because it was like the first animal that we saw, like when we actually touched down, like in this remote place where we had never been, where we've never seen anything like this. We've really never been on a safari like that before. So it was just really an overflow of emotion. And after, you know, all this time of being in a pandemic, like we were just like, we want to see some beautiful animals. So, and this was the first chance where we really got to just see so much and just see something that was just so beautiful and like just touched our hearts so much. And so it was a moment we'll never forget.
For sure. And I would say that when they say it is the bush, it is the bush.
Yes.
There is nothing in sight. The closest village to us was like 150 kilometers away, and there are not shopping stores, there are not buildings with bathrooms.
No cell phone tower.
Yeah, no service on your phone, like literally nothing. You just look out, and I think that was honestly kind of peaceful for me, of like being in the middle of nothing and just seeing nature. When you look out and you didn't see anything but just the rolling hills of the Masai Mara and the mountains in the background, which was awesome. Let's get to the lions.
The lions, which were absolutely incredible. And we really had no idea if we were going to get to see lions. That's one of the big things that people really go to the Masai Mara to see, is just these majestic, beautiful big cats with the giant manes for the males. And it was just really cool. So the very first time that we saw lions this entire trip, we came up to them in our vehicle with a few other vehicles surrounding these lions, and it was just the two of them. There wasn't like a big pride or anything, but it was just these two, and they were doing what was called honeymooning. So they had pretty much just gotten together, and they go off and they separate from their pride for about a week, and they get to know each other better. Should I say that? Is that weird?
No, you can say that.
And they get to know each other better, which was interesting to say the least. But one of the really cool things was that they would just sit there, and if you've ever seen like kind of domestic cats, they're lazy, they just kind of lay around a little bit. That's exactly what these ones were doing. So they were just being big lazy cats, which was pretty funny.
And I think like you always see on social media, or at least like we did when we were researching our trip, these like crazy pictures of lions like right next to the vehicle or like walking up to you, and we just didn't know if that was a reality or not for us. But there was a moment where we were sitting in the field and this lion just starts just like walking towards your vehicle, and you just kind of like pause for a moment and you're like, do I move? Am I supposed to freak out? And Ezekiel, our driver, was like, just like, don't move, don't stand up. He was like, most likely he's just trying to lay in the shade that's like from the vehicle. And I'll show a crazy picture here of like when he was walking towards us, but there was another vehicle a little bit ahead of us, and the lion actually went right up to that vehicle and ended up just laying down in that shade. And so those people probably got some even cooler pictures. But it was so cool just to see that like the lion, I mean, you could have reached down and pet it. That's how close it was. And it was crazy just to be that close to just a wild animal. And
it was cool how he didn't really bother much with the humans. He was just kind of doing his own thing, just trying to enjoy some shade after a long day in the sun of the Maasai. So it was just really, really cool to see kind of how they behaved and the fact that they weren't too scary for humans. I mean, we were just able to kind of sit there and enjoy them, and they were able to enjoy some of the shade that our vehicles offered.
So we got our safari moment of a lion coming super close to us.
But let's talk about my favorite story and my new favorite animal, the cheetah. One by one, these cheetahs started sitting up, and you could tell that they were locking their eyes on something in the distance. And when you looked out to the left, you saw a wildebeest, like a quarter mile away, which was interesting, because those are really, really cool animals too. But I saw a wildebeest just sitting about a quarter mile away, not moving too much, and you would see the cheetahs start popping up one by one, and they would just keep locking their eyes on the exact same wildebeest. And you could tell that they were all kind of getting in sync, and they knew exactly what they were about to do next. And they started out with a light jog just to kind of get their pace going, stretch out the limbs a little bit from their naps.
And they had strategy. Two of them came down the middle, and the other two came around.
And these cheetahs started walking towards this wildebeest, and they kind of blend in with the grass since it's this nice, beautiful, like golden savanna looking wheat almost. And they get a little bit closer, and at a certain point, the wildebeest starts to catch on. hey, I'm being hunted. So he tries to take off, but he had absolutely no chance. These cheetahs were going 60 miles an hour in just a few seconds, and before you knew it, you saw one cheetah just leap from a distance and just latch onto the wildebeest and take him down. And the wildebeest almost threw the cheetah off a little bit, but before you knew it, the brother of the cheetah came and gave a little bit of support to the first cheetah, and the wildebeest just really didn't stand a chance, which is a little sad for the wildebeest.
And before, like right when they started running, Ezekiel like turned the car into drive, and we were off, like following them to like see it happen. And what's crazy is that seeing kills in the wild is very rare.
So rare.
And Ezekiel said that the last kill he had seen was 3 years ago. And so he was like, for you guys to see a kill and you're only here, like this was only like our 3rd day. He's like, that's just crazy. Like that's unreal. And so it was like a little gross for me at the end. Like we drove up and we got to see them eating the wildebeest, which I'll put the photo here. Close your eyes if you don't want to see it. But it's like the circle of life, right? Like we saw it happen. It was real and a little gross, but hey, it makes for a great story.
And I think what was really cool, and my favorite part, was just kind of the progression that took place. You know, if we would have left like 10 minutes or even 5 minutes early, we wouldn't have gotten to see this incredible piece of nature take place. So I was so happy and so fortunate that we were able to stick around a little bit more, be a little patient, be a little persistent. We were actually able to see one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life. It was such an adrenaline rush to see them go from just napping cats to just to killers, it's just a natural born killer. So it was really, really fun, and I would say like one of the highlights I would say of my entire life was just getting to see these beautiful animals do what they do best.
And here's something for you. Before that, when we were like the cheetahs, when we were watching them sleep, were probably like 10 feet away from us, and so they were pretty close. And so I said to Ezekiel, I was like, what do we do if one of these cheetahs comes to our vehicle? Because he told us a story. He goes, I had a cheetah jump on my vehicle and climb to the top, and the tail was wagging and hitting the people on their head. And I was like, wait, really? And he's like, yeah. And I go, so what do we do if that happens? And he was like, Hakuna Matata. And it was so funny to hear them use Hakuna Matata like in their everyday language, because we just know because of the song and because that's just like, for us, that's how we know Hakuna Matata. And for him, he was really like, no, Hakuna Matata, no worries. He goes, just sit still. And I was like, what? I'm like, if a cheetah comes onto my vehicle, sit still? And so that was like crazy because like you honestly just don't know what's going to happen. And so you're kind of like always on the edge of your seat, which makes it fun. And the days always flew by because it was just like something like this is happening all the time. And so that was like one of my favorite little parts, was that he was just like, Hakuna Matata. And I'm like, sure. So comment below and let me know if you'd be freaking out or if you just Hakuna Matata. No worries if the cheetah jumps on me.
I know I definitely was not Hakuna Matata-ing. I was asking questions like, are we okay? Like, do we need to do something? Should we run? Like, all these questions
Yeah.
definitely came up at a certain point. But right after we saw these cheetahs kill, and I kid you not, like maybe 1 or 2 minutes after, our driver Ezekiel said, time for lunch, because you know, it was time for lunch for the cheetahs, so it might as well have been time for us. So we drove maybe like only 200 or 300 meters away, which is not very far at all after you had just seen, you know, some crazy killer cheetahs take down a wildebeest. So he drove over, he sat down, you know, unfolded some chairs, a table, and we ate our lunch.
I said to Ezekiel, I was like, do you want to come and join us? Because he was kind of staying by the truck. And he goes, oh no, I have to stand here and look out for lions. And I like laughed because I thought he was joking. And I think that's like how a lot of the things are on this trip, is like you don't know if they're serious or if they were joking. And he was dead serious.
He was not joking around at all. And he actually did have to be on the lookout. Because I mean, like, yeah, these cheetahs were only 200 or 300 meters away, but the cheetahs, the reason that they eat so fast is because if the lions come around, they take the kill. Like the king of the jungle, or safari in this instance, or savannah, get to eat first. They get first dibs.
So we ate rather quickly.
Yes.
While Ezekiel looked out for lions to make sure we were okay, and then packed up our stuff and got back in our vehicle. And then I would say that that was a night that was really cool because we had a long drive back. And so we got to see the whole sunset over the Serengeti, which was just really pretty.
Yeah, and the rest of that safari was just littered full of incredible animals. We saw so many giraffe. We got to see a baby elephant that was less than 1 month old. It was able to sit underneath the adult mother, which was so crazy to see. And the fact that it's your favorite animal was just like, wow. Like you see the matriarch, which is 40, 50 years old, and you get to see the brand new baby elephant just, you know, all the stages of life right there in front of your face.
So if you enjoyed our safari story time, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below what was your favorite story out of all the animals that we got to see. And thanks for watching, and see you next time.